please welcome back Chief Marketing Officer at Riskified, Jeff Otto.
I have a question to start off. I was thinking about asking this audience poll kind of midway through the conversation we're about to have, but I think it's important to talk about it right at the start. I'd like you to raise your hand if you have a friend, a family member, a loved one who has been the victim of a scam. Wow. I was on the phone with a dear friend of mine who's also a marketing leader in the Bay Area, and she was in tears when we were talking about this because one of her parents had been tricked into giving away $150,000 of their life savings. And that was all they had. They were retired. That's what they were living on. And it has completely changed the situation for her family. And this is, unfortunately, just one of endless examples that have popped up in recent years, and especially when it pertains to the industrialization and scaling of what we're calling Scam Inc. And I know that at first blush, this may not seem like it's directly related to the work that we do every day, fighting payment fraud, fighting returns abuse, refund abuse, et cetera. But I'm telling you, there's some really interesting things you're about to hear from Jamie Wendell from Amazon. Let me tell you a little bit about him, and then we'll welcome him to the stage. Jamie is an experienced cybercrime and securities lawyer. He currently leads Amazon's customer protection and enforcement team, which is composed of cybercrime attorneys and investigators. They stop criminals who exploit Amazon's customers, sellers, and partners. Jamie oversees complex investigations into malicious schemes, builds cases against the perpetrators of those schemes, and then executes external enforcement strategies, including referring bad actors to law enforcement and filing strategic civic cases to dismantle the highest impact schemes. So please welcome to the stage, Jamie Wendell. Thanks for joining us today. All right, well, let's start off. Tell us about the team, tell us about the mission.
Yes, you gave it up that I'm a lawyer, so you can hiss, you can boo, yes. Hopefully I'm a good one. So my team, we sit in the legal department. I have lawyers and non-lawyers, though. Our mission is to find the real-world individuals who are harming our customers and our partners and our business and hold them accountable. What that really looks like is I work across all of Amazon's stores business. So I handle cases from cargo theft and physical product theft on through to account intrusion and everything else. If you would organize my team's work into buckets, one big bucket is what we would call global store fraud. That would look like the kind of traditional economic crimes that a lot of you are familiar with, including, like you mentioned, refund service providers. So we've gone after a lot of refund service providers, criminal cases, civil cases.
Well, I got to stop you there because we got to hear a story. I want to hear a takedown story of a return as a service crew.
Yeah, so we've been very active actually in probably the last 18 months against refund service providers that are advertising on Telegram. And really, we got involved because it was an intersection with a sophisticated bad actor group and genuine customers. And what we were seeing was something that's very hard for our business to spot, which is someone trying to steal one or two items, right, through a genuine account with lots of historic activity through refund fraud. And so we wanted to insert friction at the point of sale for the bad actor, which is going to be on Telegram in these areas. So we did an investigation on one of the godfathers of refund fraud. We filed a civil case to unmask a whole bunch of data on who he was. We ended up finding him. He was an individual in Lithuania. And we ended up working with the Lithuanian law enforcement to arrest him. They arrested him and seized about $6 million in cryptocurrency that he had from his service. He had about 30,000 followers. That went down as well. And then as part of these actions, we've done messaging campaigns on Telegram, basically inserting messages that this is a crime, that there are a whole bunch of legal enforcement actions going on. And what we've seen both internally and externally is the numbers from those particular groups drop significantly.
Nice work.
Yeah. So I'd say we have that kind of economic crimes, and then we have what we call scams, which is pretty much every impersonation scheme using our name off of Amazon to defraud consumers.
Yeah, so that's the fake email that says it's from Amazon saying, hey, click this link so that we can validate your Prime profile, things like that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all gotten some of those. So one of the, you're sitting at a unique kind of position within the risk funnel of Amazon. Talk to us a little bit about that uniqueness.
Yeah, if you look at kind of all of our risk controls across Amazon, I describe them as a funnel, and we sit at the very end of that funnel. And so if you think about the funnel starting with all of our proactive controls, everything that's automated, then you kind of flow through those controls to the teams that build them and tweak them. Then you flow to the heightened investigation teams. These are teams that kind of, you would think of as escalations, things that are broken, right? You funnel through all of that and you get to our team. And what that really means is what we see are generally two types of bad actor group. One is the egregious organized crime networks that are just going to get around controls or find loopholes and vulnerabilities faster than we can kind of patch them up upstream. But there's a second group, which is there's business programs that will where the controls are kind of at odds with what we want to do for genuine customers. Refunds is a perfect example, right? Ideally, we would like to give frictionless refunds for customers and be able to have people return things easily and quickly. If we dialed up fraud controls, at some point we are going to be hurting our genuine customers. And so there's going to be a bad actor cohort that sits in our business. And this is where the refund service provider work comes, where we can do things externally, frankly, more efficiently than our business can because of the customer impact. So those are kind of the two areas where we, like my team, commonly finds value and impact in the work that we do.
Got it. And you and I were talking, we met a couple of months ago now in Seattle, and he terrified me at this dinner with the size and scale of what he'd been seeing. I wonder if you could talk high level to how the relationship between scams and the typical kind of payment fraud that we see day to day, what does that overlap look like?
Yeah, the two buckets that I described, no bad actor thinks about things like that, right? They do not think about our businesses the way we think about our businesses. They think about how can I make money as fast as possible and for as long as I possibly can, right? So what we are really seeing is more of a collision between the kind of traditional economic crime bad actors and the scam bad actors, right? And those distinctions probably in a couple of years won't really matter. And so when we're thinking about scammers, if you're thinking about scam impact to a business, right? So setting aside the consumer direct impact that they have, what we see are kind of three areas. We see direct financial losses, so scams that may impact gift card purchases, credit cards, which get chargebacks, account takeovers. But we see a fueling of the criminal ecosystems that drive e-commerce fraud and just fraud in general. So that would be identity theft, stolen payment instruments, tooling, right? So kind of all the general purpose tooling that they use. The more money that's injected into the system, right, the more you see just fraud at all levels flow out. But the third that I think is important, that I think is it's understudied and it's kind of underappreciated, is an impact to genuine consumers trying to interact with your business. And so what we see is heightened customer service calls, right? People that are confused about genuine service offerings because they hear from scammers. People that then get scared to interact with certain transactions online. Hey, I don't want to shop online. I don't want to bank online because I'm scared of what the bad actors are doing. And we see all of these costs kind of build up in the business. Erroneous fraud decisions is one that we see a lot, right? Activity that people start to do on accounts because scammers tell them to do looks like fraud activity, and you block their account, and then they can't get their account back.
Right. Makes sense. Now, we already saw most of your hands raised when I asked this question earlier, but I wanted to give some size and scale to the problem that Jamie just alluded to. And if you look at this map, just to orient you real quick, that little red dot is a border region in Myanmar in Southeast Asia, otherwise known as Burma, okay? And if you look at the first satellite photo, you can see mostly this was farmland in 2020 at the start of the pandemic, okay? Now, this photo is a year old, so it's outdated by this point. You can see thousands of buildings, and by estimates of the Thai government, there's 20,000 workers, mostly people that have been human trafficked. They were trying to get a good customer service job, right, in Bangkok. They got tricked into coming to Bangkok, stuck in a van, driven 14 hours through the jungle, and now they find themselves in KK Park, where they're being forcibly exploited to do scams against Westerners. And if you look at the size and scale of this, you can see, they're not investing small amounts of dollars in building out this infrastructure. This is a capital investment of large scale. And this is only one complex of many that are across that region of Southeast Asia. And then to prove the point even further, a research report that came out just 2 weeks ago by a human trafficking advocacy group estimates that Cambodia, their government being bought and paid for, the GDP in Cambodia is now 60% scam earnings. So this gives you a sense of what we're dealing with here. This didn't exist 4 to 5 years ago, and now we're at a scale which is just absolutely terrifying. So, with that, with that happy news, Jamie, tell us what else you're seeing.
I think this is an important point because I look at the investment, and interestingly, most of those scam compounds that you see are not doing business impersonation scams. They're mostly doing crypto investment scams, romance scams. So these are mostly on social engineering sites where they establish trusted relationships. They're a friend, they're a romance partner, they're a successful business person, and they want you to invest more and more money. But what I think we should all be taking away is that is real capital expenditure by scam groups in the billions of dollars, and scammers do not look for 3% returns over the next decade, right? They are looking for much larger returns. And so if they're willing to spend billions of dollars on hard costs, right, recruiting people, physical infrastructure, technology investment, right, that should tell you the amount of money that they expect to be coming in. And the dollar figures that we're talking about is one of the more significant wealth transfers from not just the US, but Western countries mainly, but even, you see scams within China, you see scams targeting, within India and other places that you think of as this kind of scam capitals. They're targeting their own citizens. These are very large wealth transfers, and governments right now are far, far behind. There's some governments that are farther ahead than others, but if you look at a country like the US, we don't even have a national scam strategy, right? We're not even at the point where we can talk about we're not executing well enough against the strategy. We just don't have one, right? And if you go and talk to law enforcement, which I do, they are ill-equipped resource-wise and also just in the way they think about combating these transnational criminal organizations that are moving around the world.
Yeah, and you and I talked a little bit about this. An exploited individual, a victim, obviously, some of the more painful scams with the, tricking them into investing in crypto or other things. There's also what we see when we look at, illicit marketplaces like we were talking about earlier. We're seeing that, the accounts that have been taken over, the cards that have been taken, you name it, right? The bank accounts, they end up in the ecosystem. They end up out there, right? And so there is some of this, this trickle effect from the upstream scamming into what we see in our kind of day-to-day work.
And there's, again, because bad actors don't think about businesses as like, I'm a scam compound, right? They make money. And so what we see is some of the money coming out of scams, for example, is being fed right back into tech development, right? So I know of one group that we're tracking in China that has about 400 data scientists employed that work on nothing but AI technology, and mostly what they're doing is identity, what we would think of as identity theft and kind of automation
Yeah.
from AI, right? This is the type of industrialized organization and criminal organization that is going to affect all of our businesses moving forward.
Yeah. So obviously, something as dramatic as this requires a bit of a mindset shift. And what advice do you have to, I guess, all of your peers in the industry here? These are all fraud fighters pretty much in the room. What advice do you have?
I think, I don't know if this will be advice. I'll say how we look at it, right? What we're looking at is kind of a total ecosystem offensive attack, right? I don't want to just stop Amazon scams, right? I want to really make an impact in the criminal ecosystems that are driving this. And that's not altruistic. That's like it's still purely selfish, let's say that. But these scammers are going to move across all businesses faster than all of our controls. And whether you're being targeted today or tomorrow, you're going to be targeted. And so I don't want to just drive Amazon scams to Google scams or any other merchant or company, right? We need to make lasting impacts against the criminal organizations, because the more money they get, the more investment, and it just kind of fuels this arms race, right? And it's an arms race we are not winning right now, and we are losing. Scams have gone up every year for kind of the last, and kind of exponentially going up by all measures. And it's just a matter of whether it's tens of billions or hundreds of billions in total losses that the population's seeing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we can't leave everybody on that dire note. So let's talk about a couple of wins that we've had here. So tell us about some of the other Amazon-led enforcement actions that your team's been a part of.
Yeah, so when we're talking about the entire criminal ecosystem, right, I go back to my main job, which is to find these people and hold them accountable. And what's actually amazing is you can find them. They're fairly easy to find. And what we're finding over the last few years is there's a need and to grow a will to actually force action against them. It's not about not being able to find them. It's not about finding them in countries that you can't do anything about. You can actually do direct action in most every country around the world, especially where the scammers are. It's a matter of getting a collective societal push to want governments and for companies to take direct action. So we partner with anyone who's wanting to partner on cases. So actually, I think the first one is one we worked on with Microsoft. So these were kind of, I would call them kind of classic tech support. So the Microsoft side were pop-up ads that you get on your computer saying you have a virus, call this. The same call centers were running kind of Amazon purchase orders, so the scummy emails that you get that says like, hey, you ordered an iPhone for $1,000. So we were able to investigate it, share data with Microsoft. We worked with Indian federal authorities to take action. They ended up raiding about 70 different locations. Those are call centers. They were the principal owners of the operations. They seized a significant amount of assets, took all the call center infrastructure down. The other two examples are kind of ones that I don't think people really think of as, you know, an Amazon scam or scams to be on the lookout, but these are some of the business programs that we have and kind of showing where scammers are making significant amounts of money on things you're not even thinking about. So in these cases, these are kind of both sitting adjacent to our Kindle publishing business, and they were targeting authors. They were targeting content creators. The middle one is a scheme out of the Philippines, and it was they would contact authors and say that a movie studio is interested in making their movie into a blockbuster, and so all they had to do was kind of pay some money to facilitate the right type of content creation to get the studio interested, and they used every studio name, including Amazon Studios and MGM. But this call center, which was not very large, actually the 44 million that they reference there is an undersell on how much they were making off of content creators. And the other one was a direct lawsuit that we brought. This was a group out of Pakistan. And it was tricking people who wanted to self-publish with Amazon. And so they would say, hey, pay me $5,000, $10,000, and I'll help you publish your book. Our services are free. There's nothing there, but as you can see across these, like the vulnerability that people are hitting is confusion, right? That's the ultimate vulnerability. They don't know who they're talking to, and they don't know what the genuine services are like, right? So as a company, when you're starting to think about how I message things, how I relate to my customers, what does the messaging kind of look like to people who don't know the industry, right? If you're not investing in that to make it clear, right, then these are what results. Scammers will jump on it almost immediately and kind of take your talking points and then twist them all around. And so you see from like the KDP one, what I was talking about, one of the things that got on our radar is because we were getting calls from authors saying, well, my book's not published yet. I paid for these services, right? And it's like our business doesn't really know how, we don't have a program, we don't know how to handle this. Our customer service doesn't know what to do with these, right? Because we're like, we don't know what you're talking about. And so it just creates like a, kind of a cluster within our business that we need to get rid of.
Not great for the contact center, not great for, the Amazon brand, which has been exploited by these scammers.
Yep. And actually in the Pakistan case, there are a number of individuals in the US who were kind of sent over from Pakistan to open up the financial accounts and run the business side. So there's a fair amount of accountability of those individuals, plus we're in Pakistan as well, kind of creating impact there with these judgments.
Yeah. Where do you see this going? Like, what keeps you up at night?
I don't think, I would be shocked if anyone in the room thinks that it's going to be easier in a couple of years to determine real from fake, right? And when I look at the landscape with AI and product offerings and communications, it's only going to get worse. And what we're seeing in the bad actor ecosystem is they are much faster to adopt technology than we are. And that's, if you think about it, it makes total sense because they don't have any laws and regulations to follow. They have, their iteration cycle is hours, right? They don't have big product bases. They try things, they test them, they invest. It's like any product team would love their iteration cycle, right? And so you see it and they implement it and they push it. And so we are going to be behind for the next few years. So I marry that with kind of government inaction, right? And when you talk to governments and how they're thinking about this stuff, which isn't matching up to the criminal ecosystems that we're monitoring, I'm not hopeful without a whole bunch of private industry action and spurring that we're going to catch up.
Yeah. All right. So on that note, in addition to talking with Jamie after the session, what are some other ways that people can get involved and join this mission?
Yeah. Going back to we need to target the whole ecosystem. One of the things we're doing is really thinking expansively about what would enforcement efforts look like? How can we invest in this area to really, help drive impact? So these are two nonprofits that we've started in the last, I would say about 6 months. One of them, the National Elder Fraud Coordination Center, we co-founded this with AARP, Google, Walmart. If you're familiar with NCFTA, the kind of info sharing body that's out of Pittsburgh in the US, it's nested within there right now. And the point of this organization is to create a private industry push for better information sharing that leads to targeted enforcement packages. So there's analysts there that we've hired in our training, and their job will be to put together kind of all the disparate threads that local law enforcement and state law enforcement aren't equipped to handle right now, and they don't know how to put them together, and put together the bigger target packages for law enforcement action around the world. So the point of this org is to get together private industry for the ability to share information, but also the ability to, if you're going to invest in providing information on scams, to having a member of your team be ready to invest in scams and look at how it's affecting your customers, to have an output there, right? That's no proprietary interest. We're trying to get the best data we can to law enforcement as fast as possible. So I'm really excited about that initiative and encourage everyone to go check out the website. There's a form there for how you can get involved as a company and share information. The second one is really something that's near and dear to me. As my core job is legal enforcement. What we do a lot is interview victims. And one of the things that's readily apparent is the victims have no ability to talk to a lawyer to help understand what their rights are, to help understand the implications of scams. And I'll give you a kind of a classic one, right, which is we see a lot of 401k withdrawals as part of scams. And this would be part of like an investment scam. If you do that, and you're under the age of the penalty, there is no scam exception for that. And the IRS will hit you with pre-withdrawal penalties on those. That's a change that they made in the Trump tax cuts the first time around. And so there's a lot of issues like that. So we saw a need to kind of create some standardized kind of legal clinic advice where people that didn't have the ability to retain a lawyer themselves could have free legal services. So this is a clinic that I would still classify it as still in beta, but it's, and lawyers and non-lawyers can join, but what we're trying to do is scale like an hour or two consult for free with people that, lawyers and non-lawyers who know scams and can provide this advice and just help orient people to what they should be doing, how they should report these crimes, what are issues, what aren't issues, and most importantly, just give them some advice on how not to get scammed. What we see a lot is that the most valuable customer lists in the bad actor ecosystems are scam victims. So actually, some of the call centers make more money reselling the scam victim information to other scammers than they do on the actual scam. And that's because these victims will get contacted over and over again for about the next year with other scam attempts, most of them building on the scam that they already had. So a classic one is they'll get called and say, like, I'm from the FBI and I'm here to investigate your the scam that you just underwent. In order to secure your money, I need you to transfer it out of the account that the scammer had access to it. And there goes more money. So I think this clinic is hopefully going to get at a lot of those people.
Yeah. All right. So if you want to get involved on the corporate side, obviously the right side of the screen, National Elder Fraud Coordination Center. If you or a loved one, a friend, et cetera, needs pro bono legal services and has been a victim, the Scam Justice Legal Clinic is a great option. And everybody, educate your families, educate your friends, get a safe word amongst your family so that when a fraudster tries to impersonate your family knows and can detect that. Any other advice for everybody?
No, I think one of the big changes I've seen, which I've been positive over the last couple of years, is we used to do a lot of victim shaming, right, which underreported numbers and didn't help this conversation. And the more we talk about the fact that this is a crime, this is not a, why were you stupid? Why did you fall for this? Didn't you understand, right? It's like these scammers are very good. They are professionals, and you can spot 9 out of 10, but you will fall for the one, right? And everyone falls for different ones, and everyone can be a victim. We see very, very sophisticated, CEOs of companies falling for scams. And so the more we can talk about this, the more we can reassure victims that, you are a crime victim, no different than a mugging or any of the other, violent crimes that you find. I think the more that we'll start to drive this narrative and the more governments will pay attention.
Jamie, thank you for what you do
Thank you.
against this mission. Thank you so much. Everybody, let's give Jamie a round of applause.